Half-Life, 1998, Valve's first game. They modified the Quake engine to make their own thing. I haven't played this in over 11 years and decided recently to finally play it again, but on hard mode. I don't recommend playing it on hard mode. You're Gordon Freeman, male, age 27, theoretical physicist. You work at the Black Mesa facility. You go to work today to put on the infamous HEV suit, then help conduct an experiment. It goes wrong, and then aliens start invading through random portals, destroying the facility and killing most everyone. It doesn't have the most interesting story ever, but the way it tells it is certainly unique, at least for 1998.
It's ready! You must go! Now!
You watch everything unfold while you still have control over Gordon, as opposed to watching things through cutscenes or reading some pre-mission text. The first 10-15 minutes of the game is perhaps the most boring part of the game, but at least it gets way more engaging once it finally picks up. You're supposed to just be a scientist, but for some reason you're also an extreme super soldier who can operate loads of firearms, and you're capable of fighting off hordes of monsters, and even the fucking Marines. They do teach you how to operate some firearms in the tutorial, as if you're new to the facility, which I assume also means that they teach regular scientists, but it's very odd that some random guy is just somehow capable of surviving against a whole mess of trained soldiers, never mind some mindless aliens. The only thing I actually really liked about the story is this guy, the G-Man,
Gordon Freeman in the flesh.
because he's such a ridiculously mysterious character who only talks to you at the very end of the game.
Quite a nasty piece of work you managed over there. I am impressed.
You can sometimes see him at random locations throughout the game. Before starting the game, you get the choice of going into the training room to learn how to play. It's strongly recommended that you do because the actual game doesn't teach you any of the mechanics. There are important things to learn like crouch jumping and moving boxes to climb on, showing you that Half-Life is very platforming oriented. Half-Life as a shooter, it's fine. Average at the very least. It's a constant game of corner peeking when up against any enemy with hit scan or homing attacks. They don't even react sometimes when they are being shot at while you're peeking. The protagonist is known for his crowbar, but really it's only good against a few enemies, and even then you have to do some constant backstepping to safely kill with it. It is silly though that you can use it to destroy pretty much anything within its range, like enemy tanks. Or at the very least bring them down to low HP and go for a finish with another weapon for a safer kill. The explosive weaponry you get can make for some fun strategic plays at least. The grenade though takes some getting used to due to the game's weird physics. Even just throwing it feels weird. Don't play this on hard mode. It's not a fun challenge, but a challenge just for the sake of it. Enemies are just too tanky, you take too much damage, and get less of every kind of resource with no real counterplay aside from just knowing where and when an enemy is coming. All that together just encourages constant saves coming and other bullshit strategies. Though not exclusive to hard mode, they sometimes do the Doom Quake thing where they teleport in enemies at seemingly random moments, which just adds more to the bullshit on this difficulty. Shitty parts aside, the best part about the game is the long adventure itself. You're always crawling through claustrophobic corridors, jumping and climbing on platforms, or solving extremely unconventional puzzles. Granted, the puzzles themselves are mainly just figuring out what platforms you can jump to reach a certain place. They're very rewarding if just because the game trusts you in figuring everything out for yourself without having something tell you what to do. Maybe some signs say they need fuel or something so you can move something, but that's up to you to find out how to get that fuel, and it's up to you to figure out that you need to be filling something up with fuel. There's no in-game prompt or whatever that tells you where to go. So you're basically just going anywhere that looks traversable. As crazy as some paths may look, like very thin platforms you have to walk on, or various machinery that you just have to decide to go through, simply because there's no other exit. If that's not something you can get used to, you'll constantly be stuck. Being absolutely observant and adventurous is the real game here, and you likely get rewarded with supplies the more you explore. Some NPCs tell you your goal, but you really don't need them to most of the time, as most progress boils down to looking for anything that looks interactable, and paths that look like they haven't been taken yet. There's very little music in the game. Instead, you get treated with extremely immersive ambiance that 1998 was capable of, and the game being in first person helps a lot with sucking you into the game's low poly world. When music actually does play though, it really gets the adrenaline pumping, making you want to find where the next action sequence is going to take place immediately, because songs in this game don't last very long. Unfortunately, the sound effects are way too loud, or the music is too quiet. Bad audio mixing, in other words, with the audio settings not being very helpful, so a good chance you won't hear much of the rare music during shootouts. Half-Life has two expansions, Opposing Force from 1999 and Blue Shift from 2001, both made by Gearbox. Opposing Force is great if you want more of what you got from Half-Life, with all the weird platforming and puzzles. You even get an actually useful melee option, the wrench's alternate attack. Just don't play that one on hard mode too, as it features the same bullshit as the base game's hard mode. Blue Shift, I've been told, is pretty shit compared to Opposing Force and the base game, and from what I've read, is average at best, so I'm not really going to bother going through that one. I think the general combat of Half-Life should have been a little more about outsmarting enemies than simply shooting them down. Not just because the shooter part isn't the greatest, but more because Gordon was just supposed to be a regular scientist. You do get to play smart against enemies during some moments, like luring them near environmental explosives and then shooting the explosives, but those are rare moments. Half-Life's a nice game for the adventure.